Well, welcome back to Sunday Evening Devotions. So what makes something special or unique? What attributes does it possess that make it valuable? Take a diamond, for instance. Perhaps it's the cut of the diamond. Of course, we know that diamonds are rare and hard, and it's the way that they diffuse light that makes them unique and special. What makes God's Word different than any other human book? Well, the Word tells us that it's written by God. It's God's breathed Word. It's the message of the Bible from beginning to end as it reveals of God's goodness and love. We see the attributes of God displayed in them. We see man's fall into sin and God's determination to save us, to save for himself a people, and how he does that through great love and maintaining justice and holiness all the way through the Scriptures. And these things are remarkable attributes. Well, in 1 Kings chapters 1 through 4, our story tonight centers upon the attributes of Solomon and his kingdom. Solomon is a picture of Jesus. He's the son of David. And his name that we remember, Solomon, means one of peace, because he's the king of peace. But what gives him this right to be called the king of peace? Well, there are two attributes that shine brightly in these first 4 chapters. The first is justice. Solomon's kingdom is established on justice. Adonijah, his older brother, the older brother of Absalom, who had died in his rebellion, attempts to take the throne, despite what David had promised that Solomon would be the king. David hadn't yet made Solomon king, and so Adonijah acts, and he gathers men to him, Abiathar the priest, Joab the general, and others. Solomon hears of it through Nathan the prophet and his wife Bathsheba, and has then Solomon quickly declared king. Well, that quells the rebellion and establishes Solomon as king. So Solomon then in justice, but with mercy, warns Adonijah. But Adonijah doesn't take the warning very well, and he attempts yet again in another plot in asking David's wife to speak to the king, King Solomon, for him, that he would be given David's concubine as his wife. That's nothing less than attempting to take the master's house. Solomon understands that, and Adonijah is put to death quickly. That's because he rejects the Lord's anointed, Solomon himself, and he's rejected what the covenant that David had made wanted. Well, then Solomon moves to Abiathar, who was the priest. Remember, we had 2 priests, Abiathar, who was from the line of Eli, but God had promised that Eli's house would not remain in the priesthood. And when Abiathar had gone along with Adonijah, then Solomon removes him from the priesthood and puts him into retirement, which simply leaves Zadok, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, as now the priest. Joab hears these things, and he becomes concerned because he knows that he had wronged David, and he also had joined in Adonijah's rebellion. But David had asked that he be put to death because he had killed 2 men, innocent, 2 men who were innocent, just to maintain his position as the general. And so he is dispensed with, and then the rebellion and the injustice against David is put away. So we see that justice. Shimei, who had cursed David when David was fleeing Absalom, then is warned again by Solomon in mercy, but he violates the terms of his parole, and then with that rebellion he is dispatched. And so Solomon is quickly seen as the king of justice and maintaining innocency of David's household and true justice in the land, and so his enemies fear him. But the other attribute that we find in these chapters is that of wisdom. When Solomon then comes before the Lord and offers his sacrifices, God asks what he would want, and he asks for wisdom to reign, wisdom to rule. This pleases God, and God promises that, greater than any other man that would be wise, that Solomon would be wiser than all, and would give him prosperity. And so he asks for it and receives it, and we see the demonstration of it in that great story where there was the 2 women with the child, and whose child was he? And Solomon discerns the true hearts. And we find again how he understands human nature, wisdom applied, knowledge applied. We see Solomon's administration of the kingdom and how wise it is, and such that it brings prosperity. And so it's these 2 things that stand out: justice and wisdom that bring prosperity, blessing, you see, and they bring about then the peace of the kingdom. And so everything is established in Israel. The people, as we're told, are each living in their homes and under their trees and happy and content because God has blessed them. Well, this is a picture of the Messianic kingdom. That day will come when there will be true justice. There will be great wisdom because Christ will rule his people. And all that will bring about true, lasting, eternal prosperity and a kingdom of peace. That's our great hope. We long for that in this world. We see world leaders who fall into sin, and we see how justice is abused, how wisdom is nowhere to be found because men seek their own thoughts. But it is Christ who brings these things, and that is our great hope, that Christ will indeed reign finally and fully. Yet remember, he reigns now. And so wisdom and justice are available to God's people. If we would but just follow Christ and trust in him, and God will surely bless. Well, that's good news. Good night.